let's dive into some early morning StarCraft 2 in the bottom right hand side from Kai Z Gaming. This blue Zerg player is Solar. And still teamless, though I'm sure not for long. Our red Terror on top left hand side is ByuN. As we dive into game one of this best of 3. How is everyone doing today? Welcome to the stream. This is the ESL Open Cup Korea. I have not cast one of these live in, I want to say about 3 or 4 months, because we had ByuN Cup for a while that ran over the same time slot as this, only started a bit later, so it was a bit nicer for me. And then since then, I kind of looked at it and I was like, the bracket just wasn't that impressive. The lineup just wasn't that great. But the last couple of weeks, players have been signing up to this event again. The player list has been stacked. Everyone's fighting over a few ESL points in that $400 prize pool. And so I decided, you know, maybe it's time we got back on the ESL Open Cup grind. I kind of intended to join in for the round of 8 semifinals today, but like I say, woke up early. My body obviously just wanted some StarCraft already, and here we are. So ByuN Solar, man, we cast so much ByuN lately, but he keeps playing in everything. Like, he's the ByuN of old. He's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to play in everything that exists. And we're like, everything? And ByuN's like, everything. And I'm like, oh. It's like, someone out there's throwing like a 3-player invitational. We've never heard of a 3-player invitation in my life, but ByuN's part of it. You bet it. He is genuinely just everywhere. And not in a bad way, just genuinely, like, he's playing in everything, which is why we're casting so much of him right now. Pretty much every replay pack I get my hands on is full of ByuN as well. It's a little bit crazy. We've even casted ByuN Solar a few times, and ByuN has typically had Solar's number in this matchup. ByuN is definitely known how to figure out and how to fight Solar. So, yeah, it's kind of a fun one to watch. We'll see how this one goes. If this goes up on YouTube, guys, I'm so sorry for putting another ByuN video up, but not really, because most of you seem to not care that it's just been ByuN lately. It's just there's so many freaking ByuN games. So this is up on YouTube. I'm sorry, but like, deal with it. It's just the way of the world, you know. It's a tough life out here. I can only find ByuN games to cast. Oh no, what a shame. I know, right? Yeah, I mean, if it goes up on YouTube, at least it was a good series. Who knows? Alright, so, game number 1 of this best of 3, and we already go double gas here from ByuN. So ByuN says, let's double gas it up to get things started, to get things underway. In the early few moments, we're going to be seeing double Hellion production already on the way through from this factory. So, 2 Hellions on the way out. A Zergling speed upgrade's about halfway done already from Solar. And that Queen is about halfway done as well from Solar in the top side as well. So all of this getting ready to go. A few extra drones on the way out. So a bunch of drones on the way out. Queen is about to pop. That hatchery on the 3rd base getting set up. Everything looking pretty good right now. As that medevac's going to come out and pick up these Hellions. Take those out across down to the bottom right-hand side of the map, it would seem. So that seems to be the plan for the moment, as these Hellions will get lifted and taken away. Take me away to the Zerg base. You know, that could be a good song if we work on it a little bit. I don't feel like my vocals are going to cut it though. Whoa! The Hellions aren't getting taken, the Marines are. That kind of makes sense. Armory on the way. This is going to turn into a Hellbat attack. Sorry, I'm just so excited about my potential song. I didn't even really think to tell you guys what's truly going on here. A bit of a Hellbat build. I believe we call this one the 420, because it usually hits around 420. This is going to hit at like 405. It is a shorter map, and that's maybe part of the reason. Clean timing from ByuN as he's going to unload these first few Marines, and only 4 Hellions initially, but 2 more on the way. No, he messed up. He had them all in the same hotkey when he morphed them, so they morphed halfway across the map. That might hurt. He gets the Spine Crawler cancel. Queen's putting good consistent damage out. Medevac boosts away, but everything pulled back at the same time. Now the other Hellbats show up. Like I say, it took a little while, didn't it? Obviously, this is still good because Solar's in desperation mode, which means he is like constantly having to build lings, and even then, he actually might just be in more trouble than that. Only 3 Queens here. Oh my god, those drones are so low. If the next 2 Hellions just run at the 3rd base, I would love it so much. These Marines and Hellbat are 2 still around. Oh my god. These drones, man. Where are the next 2 Hellions? They're just all 4 of them are at home. I can't believe it. If they'd all just ran in, like, even just 2 of them, it would have made such a big difference, right? Even just 2 of them would have been able to do so much here as our Hellions We'll continue down to the bottom right-hand side. Hellions are roasted and they're toasting up a group of Zerglings already. And yeah, it's just I can understand it. What if there's a counter-attack, right? It's the safe play. But boy, there were some drones ready to be barbecued. Let's just put it that way. They were barbecue ready. They were primed. They were marinated. Oh, they were looking good. But not today. They're going to stay in the fridge and come out another time, perhaps as the factory finally moves off that reactor and gives some space for these barracks to build. Obviously, you've built a lot of Hellions here, and in doing so, you know, this is what, 8 Hellions plus 6 that were lost. 14 Hellions, that really delays your barracks. He's actually just going to go again, another round of Hellbats here, maybe trying to catch Solar, being a bit too greedy. But yeah, very, very aggressive. I mean, the Cloak Banshee right now, there's no detection for that as these Hellbats just show up onto the third base. Well, the Queen's obviously in trouble because of the Banshee, so this in general is just looking horrible for Solar. I told you that Jones will be back on the barbecue at some point. As we're going to be seeing, I mean, a decent effort to get rid of a lot of this. Spawn the way over. Banshee gets another Queen now. I do wonder if these Queen kills are absolutely worth it compared to having just gone for the drones. Probably, I think, has been. Because now it makes the Banshees more difficult to hold in the future, right? If another Banshee shows up, less Queens to utilize against it. And you're just moving around the bases, getting damage done. Next Banshee's already on the way across, as well as this one moves back up the right-hand side, able to escape away, gets to the natural, multiple drones going down. Boom, boom, boom. Banshee just picking up kill after kill. We'll finally go down here, but again, second Banshee's on the way across the map. There is a link counter-attack, however. So there's a little gap in this wall. A few Marines here. I was going to say, this is actually really nice because this obviously brings the worker count, at least from recently, back a little bit. ByuN was really, what was I saying exactly? It was about the Hellions. You make that many more Hellions and your barracks are then delayed. To then end up taking damage to like a Ling run value is kind of a bit rough because now you're really low on Marines for a very long time. You've got Stim completed because you've had the one rack to build Stim a long time ago. So you've got Stim completed. And then you've got 4 Marines, and that's his army right now. So taking this third base is problematic. If Solar builds a whole bunch more Lings here, he might have trouble with that. He's building a new armory, which is obviously a bit of a mistake. This is absolutely to line up with 2-2, but obviously already has an armory from all the Hellbats, which he made. So that's a little bit of a shame. Just something that's unnecessary that's being added in. But not something that's going to majorly affect him as he moves across the map with a huge army supply lead. Let's see if that Banshee Hellbat attack, number 1 and number 2, were just a little bit too much for Solar to handle. Honestly, may very well be the case as ByuN makes his way out down to the bottom right-hand side. 1-1 upgrades are coming through. These Marines are going to get here. Overlord already taking some damage. It will go down. And ByuN continues out over to the right-hand side as tank siege is up. Marines going to start stimming in. Spinecrawler at the front is immediately in some trouble, and Solar's just going to say GG. A little bit too much here for me this time around, and the aggression of ByuN is good to take game number 1 of our best of 3 series to start off the day. Game number 2, and in the bottom right hand side, our Blue Zerg player from KaiZ Gaming. This is Solar. Taking on, in the top left, the red Terran player, we have got ByuN. Alright, game number 2. Death Aura is our map. I've managed to roll my chair over something and now I'm stuck. Further away from the keyboard than I should be, and hence I can't control the screen right now. Give me a second. Don't you guys worry about what's going on over here. I'm fine. Trust me. I'm okay. Sorry. Yeah, I've returned. Alrighty. Game number 2. ByuN racks gas down. He really has had Solar's number lately. I know that's like that might not be. I feel like on the outset that doesn't sound too surprising, but then I look at the numbers. Let's see. Listen to this. So since October, basically since ByuN returned, he lost to Solar a couple times. 1-2, 1-2, and I was like, okay, that makes sense, right? Since then, ByuN 3-0 Solar, 2-0 Solar, 2-3 Solar. So that one was a win for Solar. 3-0 Solar. Like, one time Solar kind of like got onto the board and won. Otherwise, it's been just a sweep from ByuN. Like, that's as dominant as you can be while losing a series, right? So I actually haven't seen the 2-3. I was thinking about a lot of the 2-0s and 3-0s and stuff. So yeah, definitely a bit surprising. I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that ByuN is just very good in these early stages of the game. Very good in the early stages of the game, and he's very good at changing it up. And I think a lot of what ByuN is doing is very good at catching Solar off guard. Solar, who I would definitely say Solar is that kind of mid-game player, especially in ZvT. He loves to get mid-game. He loves to start getting late game. Solar's early game ZvT has never really left me. You know, I never felt like he was the strongest early game ZvT player. And usually that doesn't matter, because if the Terran just leaves you alone, which they so often do, it's fine. It's not a problem. But ByuN is not that kind of guy. And when he has so many different builds, it puts Solar into trouble a lot of the time early. And that's exactly what happened last game. And a lot of their games between ByuN and Solar do go 10 to 15 minutes. It's just because ByuN's early game is so good that transitions into a mid game, which is very winnable. And if you win the mid game as a Terran, you're rocking a good life right there. So as the Italians clean out his Zerglin, it's 3cc from ByuN, so different to the last game. There's Barracks gets Stim ready to go, and we'll see what's going to be next. We've seen a lot of double Barracks off of this 3cc. We have seen a fair amount of starport additions as well. I mean, this is very, very fast impact starting, so I would like to believe this has maybe got potential to be a second Rax. And I think that's exactly what we're starting to see as this factory moves to another reactor. So this should be Barracks number 2. Now, this can line up to hit a pretty gnarly timing. You've got only 2 Hellions out, but you're going to get a good amount of Marines. The big part of this Solar Scout is, boom, he already sees it. And this isn't actually just a second Rax. This is a third Rax as well. So this is even more commitment to the bio, or even harder commitment to the bio earlier than I was expecting, if I'm going to be quite honest. Yeah, Solar's just going to realize he's going to lose this OV, so he just brings it in and rechecks what's going on. And you know what? He really does see everything. The only thing he's missing is the third, but you see the third via the timing of everything else, right? You say, well, you know, at this stage, at this level of play, players know there's 400 minerals missing somewhere. If this was going to be 3 racks in one factory and there was no third, it would have happened way sooner. You know, these barracks would already be done. So Solar knows there's a third base. He knows what this is. I'd be very surprised if he didn't. He was playing a little bit clueless. If I was playing this game as Solar, you know, from Solar's point of view, I'd be like, huh? What? 3 racks? No, I actually think even I might be able to get the timing figured out a little bit. So Solar should definitely have this on lockdown. And yeah, I mean, it's just going to be quick bio play of only 4 Hellions in the end. So he did actually build 4. I thought it was only 2, so apologies for that. But 4 Hellions initially. And this is just going to be getting some medevacs out into engineering base. So we've got 1-1 starting, and it will be a Solar 1-1 upgrade lead. So if you can maintain that upgrade lead, that's nice. Always good to have the upgrade lead over the Terran player, who is typically the one to take that upgrade lead. It's going to be seeing a few Hellions will rotate out to the right-hand side, and they've been pretty good at just looking around for damage without getting themselves hurt or anything, and that really powers up this first attack as well. If you show it with all these Marines and then you've got Hellions on top of it, well, the splash damage there just makes the Lings a much worse defense, and if you're making the Lings that much worse of a defense, well, that just goes a long way. Hellions back out over the right side as we will re-engage in. Gonna get a few of these creep teamers. So picking those off, doing well. Marines continue now down the right, so they'll continue to move around as Link Queen comes into the center of the map. A couple of the medevacs out over the right side, and just going to be seeing our depots of ByuN already coming down. We do have all of these Marines ready to make a play. I mean, the medevacs are about to be here. Obviously, the one thing that's maybe missing is going to be the fact that these Hellions out defending the third, but that's fine as well. That's also just a good decision, because by defending the third base, you're putting yourself in a really safe spot, but you're just making sure no Link counterattack is going to do that well against you. I think that's fine. In a world where Solar's absolutely got potential to Link counterattack, I think that's a perfectly fine play. Yeah, this was a little bit interesting. I don't really like the drop up into the main base. it makes sense logically speaking, because you're like, oh, well, you're on the third, everything's down there, hop into the main, but it's pretty quick for Ling Bane to get there. You're putting yourself in a position where your Marine count isn't out and already high, so the Queen Star to go on top of the medevacs, and yeah, I mean, this just kind of caused Solo to run around a bit, and you abandoned a few Marines. Those Marines are probably going to die anyway. I feel like it might have just been better to sit there, trade out for the Lings that run in, and then just lift and leave instead of trying to do more in the main base. Next round, a unit's moving out. We're going to be seeing these Hellbats. Should actually have maybe spotted those Lings. It's a really nice spot because this is a dropper lord, so now you're going to know, hey, what's up? You're trying to drop into my main base. The Marines are like, no, not the main base! And they put a good amount of damage onto that Ovi. Any amount of Marines going to go to the main to defend it? Not just yet. I mean, it's low HP, so Solo might not risk it. As you see, these Marines out on the right-hand side. And this is where ByuN typically starts to look impressive, right? Where he's going to start multitasking on two fronts. Let's see what he can do. You can see Solo's intentions straight to Lurkers is the plan. So he starts moving directly toward that as a Widowmine picks off the first couple of Zerglings here. Widowmine now lining up for... Oh, I thought the Banelings have actually got a pretty good shot on the Lings. Not really getting much creep spread, though. And with the creep spread up like this, Solar is rocking a very safe, protective layer of creep, basically, right? You know, he's basically bubble wrap, but the bubble wrap is creep, and instead of being, you know, squishy and soft and it protects you, it actually just makes you faster, stronger, and lets you see everything that's coming your way. So that's how it protects you. It's kind of amazing, actually. Because now, ByuN, what can he really do? You can hit two sides, but that's about it. And Solo can rotate anywhere really quickly. I never thought about thinking of creep spread like bubble wrap. And then Terran's like one of the... You can just imagine Terran players are just like little smiley face kids. They're just like, oh my god, I love popping the bubbles on the bubble wrap. And, you know, they're just scanning for the creep tumors like again and again. Like, oh my god, this is so much fun. I like hearing those little pops. Hey, dropping the main base. This is one way in which ByuN is going to try and make it a bit more interesting. He lost out on the left-hand side with his drop. I'm worried that this is getting a little bit out of hand for him, and you know what he's forgotten? He forgot his +2 attack upgrades. That's really bad. Yeah, forgetting +2 attack is really rough here, because the attack upgrade is way more important for a Terran player than the armor upgrade. If there's an upgrade you're going to take, you take the attack upgrade. So the fact that he's missing attack may as well just be down in upgrade. You know, well, he is down in upgrades, but it's going to be really, you know, you're going to feel that. It's going to feel like 1-1 versus 2-2. But at least with attack, a lot of the times you're like, you know, you don't really notice the armor missing as much. Yeah, this is problematic. Hive is up, Seismic Spines is on the way, so our first Lurker upgrades are coming through. I'm a little bit worried about what ByuN's army looks like right now. You know, he is on a second factory, he is going 4th base, so there's a later game plan. So he is playing a more, you know, he's not playing like 8 racks, pure Marine tank. Obviously, right now it's a lot of Marines. He needs to find a way to move away from that as these Lurkers are on the field, because pure Marines just aren't going to cut it. You're going to need some amount of tankier units here, as these tanks were not siege. I mean, they get siege, and the Widowmines blow up a few Banelings as well. I like that he switched it into tanks, but yep, there's those Lurkers, and you're just not going to break down that left-hand side. Loses the units on the right side drop as well. So now he's got nothing on the right side of the map to play with. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a little bit of a... I'm not going to say it's a rough situation. ByuN has still got a good supply to work with and so on, but it's absolutely a situation where you're going to have to slow the game down and play a much later point of this game, rather than just pushing and dropping endlessly, which is what ByuN's strategy has been so far. Marines getting rid of a few creep tumors still on this left-hand side. A lot of Ling Bane up through the middle of the map. On the right-hand side, we've got this hatchery dropping down as well in the 3 o'clock position. So getting that down, we do see the rest of this army from ByuN still setting up to go. Widowmine gets a good shot off, and a few Lings do go down. Still flying through this top side. Now Lings are going to start running in. The Thor in the front is taking a bit of damage. More Marines around the back, continuing to move forward, and Ling Bane gets pushed back over the left-hand side. So once again, getting denied over here. Tank's going to siege up once again, and our Marines still splitting back. Honestly, pretty good fight for ByuN. With this amount of tanks, surely going to do okay. The Lurkers just never got involved in this. The Lurkers show up late, and looked as though they wanted to kind of wander in and siege up, but Yeah, a lot of the Ling Bane just needed to wait for the lurkers. They, give themselves a bit of time, and he maybe jumped on that just a little bit too soon. And as ByuN will be happy to sit here and trade this out. He finally got that +2 attack upgrade, so it is now 2-2 to 2-2 for a little while at least. Everything else continuing to come through as our lurkers speed through the middle of the map. Tank siege up, the food team is going down. Marines are going to stem down to this low ground. A Spore Crawler gets picked off already, and now these lurkers in a bit of trouble as well as the scan comes down. You can see those Marines doing a very good job of continuing to fight this. Lings are going to start now getting up on top of this tank line though, and that's a little bit of a shame because ByuN is now going to lose his entire tank count. He wins this fight on the left side as he is still dropping the right once again, putting the pressure on. Wants to deny base number 6 from getting up and online as he takes his own 5th base. This is pretty good news for ByuN, and it was one thing I was going to mention that Solo's never really had aggression on ByuN's side of the map. ByuN has not lost a single SCV this game, and that's typically something you need to be doing as a Zerg. I appreciate he went to Lurkers fairly quickly and all of this and that, but I mean, just not doing any damage to the Terran economy, it adds up in the end. As Corruptors, they take a bit of a beating as they fly over these Marines. Not sure, I mean, there wasn't anything else to really expect there. So it's Corruptor, Lingbane, Lurker. I'm interested about the Corruptors because that means you're limiting your Lurker count because you're putting a lot of gas into Corruptors instead. Really wants a way to shut down drops, really wants a way to shut down these medevacs. Lurkers do get burrowed up on the left-hand side low ground, so burrows up over there. A few drones already going down as our Lingbane continues to set up from Solo over on the right-hand side. Another tank on the back side of this will siege. Lingbane melee upgrade coming through. Ghosts on the way out. This Liberator trying to siege up, going for... well, even just drone denial, right, is good. Gets away from the Spore re-siege. Just Corruptor will get there, but still nice denial of mining. Maybe sat in that Spore for a little bit too long. Finally a Link counterattack. I really feel like this was missing for Solo for a long time. Nice raise on the depot, lock those Marines out in trouble, but better than letting the Lings in because then you've got even further to run back. At least now you've only got to run to the 3rd base. You've got to run all the way up into the main. That's never going to be fun as that gets turned away. +3 attack about to come in, so that missing attack upgrade never really became a big deal. Somehow ByuN managed to take no major fights without that attack upgrade pretty much, so really limited the problem that arose from his own mistake there earlier. So he's going to continue to run up this upper left-hand side, so going straight through here. Dane's crashing through the Lings like he obviously ByuN has to bring his army back to deal with this. This is basically a whole army scenario. I mean, this is a lot of units running back. Ghosts are setting up some snipes. 13 SCVs go down. I don't think ByuN minds that because he's obviously in a position where, yeah, that's that's quite a bit of his economy, but it's still actually manageable, his economy, compared to what Solo has. And he kills off a lot of units in doing this. Wow, now the Lurk's going to dive in with the Lingbane running through as well. And this went a lot better than I thought it would. Corruptor's trying to find the medevacs. ByuN is able to boost it away. And for the first time in a long time, I kind of like fight for Solo, and I like maybe where he sets himself up to be. Time is ticking for base 6, though. I mean, he gets it up on the left-hand side. Can he get this really working? Because if you don't get base number 6 to properly work for you, that's where the problem arises all over again. And right now, 5 base against 5 base, ByuN was fine to take that, but finally Solo getting a base up. This is what he's needed for a long time now. This is what he needed to get, and he's gotten it. So can he keep it alive? I think for the moment the answer may be yes, and that will allow this game to go on, because otherwise Solo is going to run out of mining while 7,000 resources lost behind, and that obviously was not going to be pretty. The only issue I have for Solo is he's going to get the left base up, the 6th base, but at the same time, can he keep it up and stop ByuN getting his right side 6th rich beam gas base up? That becomes the new question, right? Because if this goes up anyway, then Solo's still down, equal on bases. Let's see, Link Corruptor going to make the play around the right side initially. And these Marines just have a field day on the Lings, which get choked up. And eventually the Lings, I want to say, we're going to win out, but apparently not. So that's going to fall apart as Ghosts apparently just took a wander toward the Lurker lines. The Queen is out of range of the Ghosts, so no snipes coming down. Yeah, I mean, this planetary is going to fall. There's a new base right here already. It's an orbital, though, so Probably can't move that in position. He's going to clog up. You know what? There's no detection here for Solar, as the Ghosts are just going to line up a ton of snipes. Lurk is pushed back, and we might already be talking about this base now going down. So this base begins to fall. Solar's re-expanding to the right side instead, but obviously he's had success in the last few moments, denying a base of ByuN. ByuN just did not pull these SCVs, so the Banes crash in, and the Lings are going to clean up. That's a lot of workers going down. Now the Ling Bane over here crashes in as well, and ByuN gets caught a little bit off guard as the main army makes a jump on this. ByuN just doesn't have units anywhere. I mean, these Ghosts are all on their own. They're going to be fighting the wrong things. They start crashing in. There is indeed an Overseer there. Can the Ghosts clean up? For now, they're going to do okay. The Ghosts were just in the wrong position, right? They were fighting against a lot of the Ling Bane. They're meant to be hitting snipes and stuff. Like right now, they are going to get this Lurker. Can he clean up? I mean, these Ghosts are going to be very good against Lings that stream in just a couple at a time. Corruptors drop a caustic spray. You'll see a few more snipes coming down. It's a lot of Corruptors that fall. Oh, okay. ByuN obviously drops a lot of SCVs here this time, and he still holds the 5th base. I'm a little bit worried about there being no base 6. He scans the right side, sees Solar is mining over there, and this might just be the gap opening. You can see this was not as good a fight for ByuN. He traded 2,000 resources worse than this fight, so finally a good fight for Solar as he gets bases up, and I think it's all coming together now for Solar after the last few moments. I'm going to swim around the left side. A few of these creep teamers going down, and we do have the Lings just going to start running in toward this. The Lurk is going to set up as well. As these tanks are firing, it's a lot of the Lurkers are being picked away at. Ghosts are really out of energy to snipe though, so they can't really add too much here. They're pretty good at protecting the tank for a while there. I love this drop. Obviously, ByuN just scanned this base a minute or so ago, so he knew about it. And he puts the Marines right there, right away to pick away at 8 drones. So an 8 drone pickup is definitely not a bad start as these Marines get back into the mineral line. And Lings will continue to drop. Honestly, this is a very good drop because it's pulled so much to the right-hand side. ByuN's now going to focus the right side in general because he's also got his base coming up over here. I guess he's going to be able to maybe run some units down this left side. You can see how desperate Solar is for base. Is oversaturating on the 6th base. Or 7th base. Alright, Lurkers just run up into this, and obviously the Ghosts were not ready, so immediately the Ghosts were not lining up the snipes as they should be. Now they get a couple, so some Lurkers go down. But Solar's already forced the lift off. Is it going to be enough? Bane's crashing on. And these few Ghosts, if they had been able to split away, and you've got a few Ghosts left here, and this is maybe still okay. Maybe it's still okay anyway. There's only a few Lurkers. Snipes do go down. The 2 Ghosts that remain get 2 kills. The Orbital chased and killed on the right-hand side as ByuN is still in this game. 114 to 136 supply. Worker counts is the difference. 20 worker advantage. Solar as ByuN. His army supply is even. He's going to find this fight against some Banelings. Those are perfectly fine connections for ByuN. He doesn't lose a single unit there, if I'm not mistaken. And well, now he's got to push down this right side to finish off this base. You know what? Is there just no Banelings? There's a couple. I mean, there's 4 or 5 running in. 4 or 5 generally isn't enough. Let's see if the Lings are now going to get the job done. As the Lings get here, if the Lurkers support, that's where the Lings become very powerful because they're streaming in. The Lurkers are dealing splash from the background. Looks as though it's going to be okay as the Bio continues to run on out of here. I mean, new tanks showing up. These Banes continuing to wander forward, and we're just going to be seeing a bit of Bio showing up. Banelings do get handled, and now this Lurker gets transfused as it burrows back up. Can ByuN stay alive here? He finally gets this Lurker. He is holding onto the orbital. The Queens are now going to get chased away. I mean, they can transfuse each other up. I think the problem is the Zerglings are like the biggest issue right now. Obviously, the tanks are causing a lot of friendly fire onto Bio as Lings get on top. And there's just a lot of Marauders as well, so the damage output on the Lings is not as good as it may seem as though it should be. You know, it feels like you should be able to clean up just a few Lings to roll in very easily, but because it's Marauders, they actually don't do great against Lings. They're good at tanking, but they're not good at dealing straight up damage, so that's just a couple of Banelings. There really is just a lack of Banelings on the map right now, as this Lurker is not going to go down before, well, it's still going to be there, so he is going to get it picked off. ByuN is pushing down this right side. He doesn't have a medevac left to his name. He cannot take damage. The Banelings get a connection. The Lings wrap around. I think that's going to be enough for Soul to just continue through. GG is cold. And after a 22-minute duel, ByuN gives up, and Solar will be victorious to tie us up 1-1. Game number 3, as we go into the bottom left-hand side, our blue Zerg player is Solar from Kaizi Gaming. Good hold, good turnaround. It felt like even when he got the lurkers up, I feel like a lot of the time the lurkers get up in these ZvTs, and that's when the Zerg players are like, right, I'm under control, I've got this. But Solar actually took a couple bad fights from there, and it felt like he was still in trouble, but there was a breaking point where he did a lot of damage while also getting his own 6th base up, and he never let ByuN get to that 6th base, as obviously ByuN's our red Terran top right side. And that's where Solar made the play to really get into that game again, to really get back onto the right track, because otherwise, he was genuinely in a losing position, right? 5 bases versus 5 bases. He had to make the play, he had to make it at some point soon, and he did get it. He made it happen. He was able to make it work. And yeah, the very end, obviously, ByuN is like hanging on for dear life. But the problem is, because he's making so many Marauders and stuff to be able to tank the lurkers and just be tanky, you're missing the Marine backlines. So you're talking about like 5, 6, 7 Marines. And so the Lings just don't die. And it's really crazy, but it's very noticeable that once you've got that many Marauders, Lings are just really good at game. And obviously, it's a problem because the siege tanks you're building to help hold off the lurker lines, well, they deal friendly fire when the Lings are getting on top of you, so that's not great. You're not cleaning out the Lings quickly, so they are getting on top of you. And it just wasn't the right army in the end for ByuN to really stick. Like, it was the right army to get to that position, but what he had left over just wasn't good against the streaming in of Lings. And like every time the Banelings showed up, it was almost like, well, the Banelings aren't that great because the Marauders tank a couple of shots, etc., whatever. But the Lings made it a problem again and again and again. Factory setting up as a 2-1-1 build here from ByuN early game in this TVZ. So again, ourselves set up, and Orbital Command will already morph in down on the natural. Obviously, the 2-1-1 was one of the builds that ByuN really made look so broken back in 2016. It was really one of the... I mean, it's crazy that this build is 4 years old now and still so relevant. Yes, it took a big step back from the meta. Yes, there was a good portion of time we didn't see it at all, but for it to now make a return and just be as good as it ever was is like, oh, okay, wow. And to see so many variations of it as well, just really goes to show it stood the test of time for sure. Has stood the test of time. Let's do just see a few Marines coming out. Stimpack is coming up. That's going to be seen our Overlord coming in, trying to get a bit of info. Solar sees the info he needs. Barrack's still on the reactor, so he knows it's a Marine heavy opening. That's very likely then a 2-1-1. There are very few other things it would be, but the thing is, everything else this could be is basically the same response. To make Lings at a certain time. The only thing it would be to if you went like 3cc and you kept this barracks on the reactor, but the reason you don't do that is because then if you make the Lings defensively against the 2-1-1 and it never arrives, they're going to show up against not enough Marines, and then you have a bad time as well. Lings show up here, and you can see the Marines are good to push those away. Obviously, ByuN will have to make sure to fully wall this off before he leaves. Otherwise, he's going to be in some trouble. I like this, though. He's actually going to start moving on the map, and especially on this map, the way that the rally path for the medevacs lines up, I don't mind that these Marines are already out there and kind of on their way across. Especially because it's going to turn out to be a few more than 16 Marines. So he's actually going to have, what, like 15 plus 5, 20 Marines? Hey, those few Marines might make a difference. Let's see what the Queen Ling defense will look like as ByuN readies himself. Obviously, 3rd CC now starting, so that'll be about 7 to 8 minutes when it gets to land in position. I actually think these few extra Marines to what we usually have are going to really work wonders. And right now, Queens do not get any damage on the medevacs. The medevacs have just sat there looking good. Another steer. Medevacs are fairly low on energy, but these Lings just aren't getting the job done. Now Queen's continuing to drop, and ByuN is just here having a wild time. Gets a Queen, is going to look for another. Now a few more Zerglings continue to drop. These drones are in a bit of trouble. More Lings continuing to run in. I mean, the drone count is just going to be going down. Obviously, ByuN macro behind this. The problem here is you take so much damage to this first wave. The second wave is likely to get so much done. And that's where the problem really arises, because how do you ever hold off wave 2 as Solar he just dies? I don't necessarily think Solar's defense was bad. Was he on a few too many drones? Maybe. It was the fact that ByuN somehow had like 20 Marines instead of 16, and you laugh, but 4 Marines can actually make such a big difference because of the way that they stack up. I also feel like Solar didn't engage it properly. Like, he should have put the damage on the medevacs much sooner. If you do that, the Marines get cleaned out a lot more quickly. The queen damage on Marines feels very fruitless initially because it just gets healed up so easily. Alright, well, I'm just going to continue down. Reinforcements already showing up, and Solar's had to rebuild drones, so guess what? He's not been rebuilding Lings. And that's all the overlords that he kind of needs right now, huh? Yeah, well, combat shields here as well, so these Marines are even better than before. GG, ByuN just has too much. ByuN makes it look simple at the most stressful of times. And that's how this series will end. ByuN 2, Solar 1. ByuN advances through to the next round. And we can check in on the bracket to see exactly what the bracket looks like with that now